when we passed this measure on third reading, there was a Section 19 privatization of the Coco Levy assets, and it identified, these assets. The committee shall be guided by the following standards. For example, the function or purpose for which the entity was created are no longer relevant. Therefore, you can privatize. Functions or purpose of the entity duplicate or unnecessarily overlap with functions or projects already provided by another agency. Then you can privatize, and so forth and so on. This was in the bill when we passed it on third reading, so that those who are to undertake the privatization are guided by a set of criteria.
Mr. Senator, I always believe that the government is not good in managing businesses. So for me, we're giving them 5 years, they sell all these assets and give it to the coconut farmers. So I don't care if they sell it cheap or they sell it high, but the important thing is the government is not holding any property. Because from records, these cocoa mills and UCPB are not giving returns to the government. No income to the Coco Levy Fund. So might as well sell them and profit from them. And if they want to operate it better, then they buy it and then operate them so they will have the income. But holding them for free without giving any income, I don't agree with it.
Yes,
I am for the government not to operate any business. Sell them all and get the proceeds and put it in a trust fund and give the interest to the coconut farmers.
Yes, I agree with the good sponsor in principle with respect to government being inefficient, in running these corporations. So there's no debate there. The point that I'd like to stress is that perhaps in the process of privatization, there has to be guidelines as to how it is to be privatized.
Okay. If you can make amendment of simpler guidelines,
Yes.
we can make this hard for the government to do so that we can dispose of these assets and give the proceeds to our coconut
Yes.
farmers and the coconut industry.
Yes, yes.
It's not anymore getting the best price for it. It's about getting our money from them because we're not earning anything from them. So it's useless.
Yes. So hopefully, if we can agree, just to have guidelines as to the privatization.
In our period of amendment, you can suggest how to do it.
Yes, thank you.
I'm just telling you that we make it as simple as possible so that we can accomplish our job in 5 years and get the money in 5 years.
On the issue of Coco Levy assets that are subject of litigation, may we also be given the latest updates on the cases pending?
I will ask PCGG to make a list. You
Yes.
know, it's very difficult to take care of these assets kasi when you ask them questions, nobody will answer. We have to force them to answer because that's the difficulty we face in making this bill. Nobody is answering. So maybe we can file a resolution forcing them to answer kasi ang hirap nilang kunan ng details.
Yes.
Really.
Perhaps through this measure, we can get them to submit a number.
Maybe in the measure, we will put there that whoever is handling this should make a report every 6 months or every year para ma-monitor natin what's happening. Because if there is no law, then they don't follow. That's why we have to indicate it in the law that they make a report.
If we may just place on record so that the good sponsor can properly request the PCGG to provide updates.
It will really help us a lot.
Pending the resolution of these cases, I believe, number one, there is a 4% SMC Treasury shares at 25.5 million shares. The estimate would be 2.1 billion. at 84 pesos per share, and also at 127,880,936 shares rather, that would be around 10 billion. So meron pa nun. And then you mentioned earlier Coco Life. This is UCPB. There is
UCPB.
also 55% of Coco Life. The amount there estimate is around another 8.4 billion.
Yeah.
And then PCDG has 1% shares held, SMC shares held, 27.8 million shares. This is another almost 2.5 billion.
Maybe, Senator, you can make a list of what you know, and then we will ask them to make a report on this. Kasi ako, tiningnan ko na lang yung sinabi nila na Coco Mills and UCPB plus the cash. Tingin ko, that's a big enough money to give to the coconut farmers. So if we will get additional money, that's good. Can you make please a report on this so that we will ask them to...
We will provide you a list, and then perhaps your staff can coordinate with the staff so that we can somehow reconcile it. Thank you, Madam Chairperson. With respect to the fund life, the committee report says that the trust fund will have a life of 99 years.
As I was saying, the limit lang is 5 billion a year. So we can spend more than 5 billion a year depending on the performance of the agencies that are doing the jobs. So we can work na we will spend 10 billion a year or 15 billion a year. So I think the lifespan of the bill will really not last for 99 years.
So the difference,
if we are doing a good job, it will last for and no one can blame us if it will not last for 99 years. That is just the provision of the law, but it might not last for 99 years.
So that just to put this on record, what we passed on third reading, and finally what we passed, which was vetoed, the previous measure, was that it would have been a perpetual fund. 10 billion would have been appropriated
every year. Every year.
First, and then just the incremental income, if I'm not mistaken.
No, there's no provision like that. It's 10 billion a year. But they did not agree with 10 billion a year because they said that the PCA cannot implement a 10 billion a year budget. So we changed. We brought it down to 5 billion, but minimum. We can increase it as we want it. And then we assign other jobs to other agencies para the implementation will be better. Like, for example, a scholarship program. Why will you assign it to PCA? Assign it to CHED. Because that will facilitate the scholarship. I remember yung ASEP, inassign sa DA, binigay sa DA, hindi binigay sa CHED. So, yung mga scholar, hindi nakagraduate kasi ayaw bayaran ayaw bigay ng DA yung pera sa CHED. Kaya ako, I'm a believer that if you are the one implementing, give the money direct to you para mas madali ang implementation. Pag maraming dinadaanan, lalong nagkakagulo, nagtuturo-turuan. Kaya ako, kung halimbawa scholarship, we give it to CHED. Diba? And they manage it. Like for example, if yung ibang dito, like for example, encouraging cooperatives. Kasi kailangan natin ng cooperatives for processing. Kasi yung mga bibigay natin sa processing, it should be given to cooperatives. It cannot be given to one farmer. It should be given to an association of farmers. So we have to encourage cooperatives. So we will have someone to manage the processing, because processing will increase the income of farmers. Like for example, yung processing of cocoa sugar, cocoa water, yan ang pinaka-in-demand ngayon sa buong mundo. But it cannot be done by a farmer. It should be the cooperative of farmers. So we have to build cooperatives. And so I'm giving the money to CDA to empower the cooperatives of coconut farmers and to encourage the coconut farmers to build cooperatives so they can get the processing equipment and operate them in their communities as additional income.
Okay. So in other words, whereas in the previous measure that we passed, it would be the PCA reconstituted that would have
All these powers
yes. Now it will be
divided.
it will still be the PCA, but it will now the PCA will now decide that
No, not all will be given to PCA because the complaint is the PCA won't be able to do all of this. So we will give it to other agencies which can do it better. And ang maiiwan sa PCA would be the things they can do.
when we say
maano natin yung complaint that
When-
the
when we
PCA
say this-
will be unable to spend all of this money effectively.
okay, how will it work, ma'am, Madam Sponsor? 5 billion a year.
Yeah.
Who will
There is a
decide-
division.
How will it be? For example, 5 billion. There is a division 10-10-10. That
Oh,
at 5 billion,
yeah.
10% will go to
Health
scholars.
facilities for processing, 10%. We'll give it to DOST. Okay? For farm improvement, diversification, we give it to those who know this. NDA, high value crop, and all that. For development of hybrid coconut seed farms and nursery, PCA yan. For empowerment of coconut farmers organization and their cooperative, CDA. For scholarship program, CHED. For health and medical program, yan yung binibigay ko sa PCA na mag-create sila ng isang office
Yes.
for this.
So how
And
does
then, so, yung credit, diretso sa Land Bank at saka sa DBP. No
so
more.
when we say derecho, ma'am, how is the decision making? 5 billion is allotted every year,
No, it's provision of the law.
and therefore
It's the provision of the law. You see, in this law, it's a percentage. So, kung ilan ang nilabas mo, percentage noon. So, I'm not limiting it to 5 billion. 5 billion is minimum. If they increase it, then the money will increase because the percentage will be higher. 10% of 10 is 1 billion, but 10% of 5 billion is 500 million. So, it will increase depending on the budget.
So the Bureau of Treasury will then
Yes.
through the DBM will now
DBM and Bureau of Treasury will give it directly to the agency
every year.
every year.
How will that be monitored by the PCA? What is the how does that
They
work?
will make a report every year. Pero pwede din twice a year, di ba? Oh.
So
Pwede
so
naman
will be-
kasi ang
so
PCA
there will
ang
be-
mag-identify but yung mag-i-implement, iba. Diba?
Yes,
Kasi nakita ko na to nun sa DA eh. Yung scholarship dinaan sa DA, ayaw bigay sa CHED. Eh di walang scholarship. The students are writing us that hindi daw sila makagraduate kasi hindi binayaran yung kanilang mga tuition. So the trouble is nagkagulo yung DA at saka CHED. Oh. So that's the parang yung bureaucracy natin dapat bawasan natin kasi kaya hindi na i-implement gawa ng bureaucracy natin kagulo-gulo. So I was telling the Bureau of Treasury, if it is written in the law that you give it directly to CHED, you give it directly to CHED. Diba? Because that is the spirit of the law. Like when we passed the ASEF, ayaw talaga pumayag ni Senator Osmeña noon na hindi aayusin kasi nawala yung pera. So what we did with ASEF, it did not pass through DA. It went to Land Bank, yung 80%, it's for loans. Oo. So diretso na sa Land Bank from the Bureau of Treasury. And then yung scholarship diretso sa CHED. Yung research diretso sa SUC. Parang ganon. Para wala na tayong gulo. Simple ang ating ginagawa. Kasi pag maraming dinadaanan, nawawala yung pera along the way.
So the DBM and the Bureau of Treasury will now have the discretion.
Yes. Oh, yeah. No, not the discretion. They will follow the law. That's why we write the law. So that would be the basis of what they're going to do. Kaya nga pag gumawa tayo ng law, we should be very specific. Kasi pag hindi tayo specific, na-change yung spirit of the law.
How will we avoid that it becomes an unfunded mandate, ma'am?
Why will it be unfunded? The money is with the Bureau of Treasury now, 75 billion plus interest. How can it be unfunded? Just like rice tariffication, every year may rice tariff na 12 billion, more or less. And then yung ASEP, that's tariff from agricultural products. From what we saw, it's 1 billion a year. Oh, how can it be unfunded? It's not even coming from government. It's coming from tariff. And this one is a trust fund, which has money. So how can it be unfunded?
What I meant, ma'am, was that even assuming that, my understanding is when we transferred it to the SAGF,
SAGF.
it became a special account in the general fund rather than a trust fund.
No, according to this law, it will be a trust fund deposited sa treasury. And then they will follow the law on how to disburse the trust fund.
Okay. And
that's why we have to pass this law, because they cannot disburse it without this law.
That's okay. That's where we will, because there are some questions also. The bill, for example, provides that all the amounts will be turned over within a period of 5 years. This is different.
The money now is the cash is now with the Bureau of Treasury. There's no problem with that. All the other accounts, which would be the proceeds of the selling of assets, will be given to the Bureau of Treasury and will form part of the trust fund.
Yes, but the trust fund account the committee report provides that the turnover of the money, including the 76 billion, is automatic as soon as the law is signed.
Yes. That is the way to manage the trust fund. Para yung ASEP, nandun din sa Bureau of Treasury na may fund. So yung law, they will follow the law to disburse of those ASEP. They will follow the law to disburse of RCEP. They will follow the law to disburse of this coconut trust fund. If they don't follow the law, we sue them for not following the law. Diba?
Yes. May I just quote part of the provisions of the committee report? For example, my understanding is that upon the establishment of the trust fund, the Bureau of Treasury, which has more than 76 billion in its custody, is required or mandated to remit only 5 billion in the first year.
Yes.
So
that's
the balance,
not trust fund.
So the balance of 76 billion
still with them.
And can be remitted within that 5-year period? Or
No. It depends on the decision of the board, how much they will remit, di ba? May PCA board composed of the six what do you call this? The six department head plus the 3 coconut farmers, di ba? 9 members of the board. So they will decide how much they will remit in terms of to the farmers, to different agencies. It's a percentage. So kung nag-remit ng 10% of 6 billion, 10% of gano'n, nakalagay naman dito percentage, hindi amount. So they will just follow the law. Diba? They know it. They've been doing it. In RCEP, they're doing it. They always report that every year na 12 billion daw nakuha sa RCEP. According to the law, they will give 10 billion. 10 billion, 5 billion sa PhilMec, 3 billion sa PhilRice, 1 billion sa training, 1 billion sa Land Bank and DBP, and the rest will be decided because there is provision of the law where the excess of 10 billion will go.
Yes,
so
yes.
they will,
Ma'am, here it is. Section 8 of the committee report provides this purpose. This is on the nature and capitalization of the trust fund. For this purpose, any provision of law to the contrary, notwithstanding, all government agencies holding Coco Levy funds and or assets shall transfer any normal monies to the trust fund within a period not exceeding 5 years.
Yun nga sinasabi ko eh. That
Why?
we have to privatize in 5 years.
As this includes privatization.
Yes, all. They have to
Imagine-
finish the transaction in 5 years.
It might just complete the provision. Immediately upon the enactment of this act, the BPR shall transfer 5 billion pesos to a separate trust fund account. So that's the first 5 billion. 1 billion will now, they can now decide in the next 5 years. How does that work now?
No, there is a trust fund. They have to, the board will decide how much they will give to the project. It will be divided into the projects listed. Now, if the minimum is 5 billion, if they decide to give more kasi maganda yung performance ng mga projects, they can give more. But it will come from the Bureau of Treasury. In the meantime, the money will be there and it will be invested by the committee, the management team. And it says in our law that we want it only invested in treasury bills para nang sa ganon safe yung pera.
Yes,
And if you invest it in treasury bills, there will be interest, so the money will grow.
yeah, I just wanted that clarified because there is already existing 76 billion cash,
Yes.
30 billion in assets.
Mm-hmm. So,
Only 5 billion will be released on the first year.
yes,
In the
it will
meantime,
remain there as a trust fund. Okay. It will not be touched. It will earn interest. It will be invested in treasury bills and will earn interest. Now, in the future, if they decide to give more than 5 billion, they can do so anytime.
okay, in the following year, for
provision of the
example,
law is minimum 5 billion, but it can be increased. Kasi kaya lang nila ayaw magbigay ng malaki, sabi nila hindi kayang implement. Eh di tingnan natin kung hindi ma-implement. Kung na-i-implement naman, di magbigay ng malaki. Di ba?
my concern there, ma'am, is there seems to be discretion with respect to all monies being turned over to the trust fund within 5 years. In other words, for 3 years, they choose not to give the 76 billion portions of the 76 billion cash because they have 5 years to do it anyway. Unlike in the law which we passed previously, upon the enactment of the law, it will be placed in a trust fund and they have, if I'm not mistaken, 90 days to do an accounting. 90 days to do an accounting, but money already available will be immediately turned over. There's no 5 year.
Walang 5 years. What is the 5 years? I cannot understand the 5 years. Ang 5 years is the liquidation of the selling of assets. We're not talking about the cash. The assets. We want to sell them within 5 years. But the cash is with the Bureau of Treasury. It will be spent there. It will stay there. It will be invested there in treasury bills. Walang 5 years doon sa cash. We're talking of 5 years. We're giving them 5 years to sell all the assets of the Coco Levy Fund so that it will be cash there in the treasury and anytime we can spend them.
Yes. But that,
Walang 5 years.
I think Section 8 has to be further clarified. Maybe
Yes.
we try to come up with the language to be able to clarify that because
the 5 years is the disposition of Coco Levy assets. The Coco Mills, UCPB, yung mga assets na binigay sa Coco Levy Fund. Yun ang 5 years. We're giving them 5 years to dispose of all of them and give us the money to be deposited in the Coco Levy Fund. But the cash, it will be there, invested sa treasury bills. So it will earn interest for the cocoa farmers.
Okay, so the understanding is all monies available upon the enactment of the law will have to be turned over to the trust fund.
Yeah.
And then the 5 year, additional 5 years is for the privatization and
of all the assets.
Okay. So,
Kasi ayaw na natin ng assets, hindi naman kumikita, ipagbili na lang lahat yan at gawing pera. Diba?
Okay.